Hi, I'm Kamali, taking you through the stories people are talking about and sharing around the world on Newsfeed today. What can be done to stop the rise of the machines? Well, before we need a John Connor type, 50 academics are having a go. I'll speak to the professor leading the charge. A Bollywood superstar gets sentenced to 5 years in jail for shooting an antelope in 1998. How to deal with pollution in paradise, shut down the island for 6 months. That's what the government of the Philippines is going to do. And if a bear drinks in the woods, is it thirsty? Okay, well, top of the newsfeed, and I have a question for you. When was the first time you remember becoming concerned about the power of computers and artificial intelligence? Well, mine was after watching the film War Games as a kid. If you've not seen it, it's got Matthew Broderick in it, and he basically hacks the US government's defense system and nearly starts a nuclear war with Russia. They are remaking it, apparently. But anyway, after that and Blade Runner and Terminator and all those other movies and books and TV shows, it's pretty clear that we are headed towards that dystopian future that writers have been predicting. Now, if we keep improving machines we have made to improve our lives, how do we stop those machines becoming smarter than us and one day turning against us? So, a Korean uni is working with a Korean weapons maker on military-grade robots, and that's got a bunch of academics very concerned, and they've called on the university to stop working with the arms firm. We'll speak to the professor who is in charge of that movement in a moment. First, Oscar has detail on what the collabo in Korea is all about.
South Korea's KAIST University is a world leader in robotics, developing machines that mimic humans. KAIST engineers have won many accolades, including a competition to design robots that can respond to man-made or natural disasters. But it's their partnership with the South Korean defence giant that has more than 50 of the world's artificial intelligence experts worried. Hanwha Systems is notorious for making cluster munitions, which are banned in 120 countries, and the company is already involved in the development of autonomous weapons. The boycotting experts fear this is quite literally a killer partnership. AI weapons will potentially be able to search for and eliminate targets without human control, and countries like the United States, China and Russia are already locked in a race to develop them. KAIST has assured people they won't conduct any research into autonomous weapons that, quote, lack meaningful human control. But the protesting AI experts aren't so convinced. The new arms race is enough of a concern for the United Nations, which is holding a meeting in Geneva next week to discuss the issue. But does the world need autonomous arms in the first place?
Well, as I said, Professor Toby Walsh is leading the charge. Professor Walsh joins us now. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, aren't you being a bit like a Luddite and trying to stand in the way of progress with this letter?
And not at all. There are some technologies that we decide that would be better not to be used for warfare. We decided the chemical weapons, biological weapons, nuclear weapons, cluster munitions, as you mentioned in your report, those have all been banned. This is another technology. There's plenty of good things that we can do with AI. Equally, it will make warfare much more terrible, and we do get a choice as to which technologies we get to use in the battlefield.
I mentioned you as kind of leading the vanguard of the first John Connor, Sarah Connor type of the fight against the machines. Do you actually feel like we are going to get to that dystopian point that the sci-fi writers have been writing about all this time?
Your viewers shouldn't worry that we're going to get to that sort of dystopian future that near. Those sorts of robots are still maybe 100 years away. We're talking about much simpler technologies. Actually, it's stupid AI that I'm most worried about, not smart AI, that would be giving responsibility to machines that aren't actually capable enough, that can't apply the right ethical distinctions. And that's something that's very near, a few years at best away. That's what KAIST and this arms manufacturer were hoping to develop in the next year or two.
I mean, your letter is directly to the professor of KAIST, the head of the whole school. How hopeful are you that having your voice and all the other 49 professors involved in this will sort of get him to take a moment to think?
Well, they've already had a significant climb down in the sense that they've already said for the first time that they're not going to develop autonomous weapons, and that they will always ensure that there's human control. That's a to that becoming a norm everywhere. So I'm very pleased so far with the reactions it had, and it will send a very clear message to the talks that are going to happen in the United Nations next week on this very topic about killer robots, autonomous weapons.
Professor Walsh, then, ahead of those talks, do you think it should be the United Nations, a body like that, an international body that decides, as you mentioned, the ethics of these AIs?
Yes, every other weapon of mass destruction has been banned by the United Nations: chemical weapons, biological weapons, and now, very most recently, nuclear weapons. And these autonomous weapons, these killer robots, they will be another weapon of mass destruction. You won't need an army of people to do your ill. You'll just need one programmer, and that means that you'll be able to scale warfare, make warfare much more terrible, much quicker. And so, like every weapon of mass destruction, I think it would be appropriate for the United Nations to ban them.
Absolutely. OK, Professor Walsh, thank you very much for your time. Let's stay in touch. I'll speak to you next week, hopefully, when the UN are meeting. Thank you. Now, the top trending story on Twitter is #BlackBuck poaching case. Now, in 1998, the Bollywood actor Salman Khan was filming in Jodhpur when he was accused of shooting 2 Indian antelopes. They're called blackbucks. Now, he's been fighting against a prison term ever since, as the animal is on the protected list in India. Today, he was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Now, he'd been filming Race 3 in Abu Dhabi, and the film isn't even finished. He has a number of projects pending, worth about $62 million. Rebecca Bundham is covering it for us.
It's no surprise that the story is trending heavily on Twitter, and we're seeing very mixed reactions. In some cases, fans are in a state of disbelief and they're questioning whether he was in fact guilty. Others are wondering whether he may end up getting off lightly, even though he has been given this 5-year jail sentence. For example, there's one tweet here: the whole sham of convicting Salman Khan in the Blackbuck case when he is going to be out on bail the next moment. This refers back to a case that goes back to 2002, when there was a hit-and-run incident. Salman Khan was accused of killing 1 and injuring 4 when he allegedly drove over them on the pavement in Mumbai. Eventually, he was acquitted in 2015. So there are some concerns that perhaps a similar thing will happen in this instance. Others are saying, good decision, they're glad that justice is being done. And in some cases, fans are saying that they're 100% sure that he's not guilty at all. It's definitely a huge talking point on social media, and it's likely to be for some time to come.
All right, let's have a look at what else is trending on social media. And Facebook has revealed that data of 87 million users, 37 million more than previously announced, has been improperly used by the firm Cambridge Analytica. Mark Zuckerberg held a conference call with journalists where he said, "We didn't take a broad enough view of what our responsibility was, and that was a huge mistake. That was my mistake." Well, Azar and the business team will have more on this in just a few minutes. Now, it seems something is rotten in the state of Spain. Judging by this video, there is beef in the Spanish royal family between the Queen and the Queen Mother. The images do seem to speak for themselves, but I will narrate them for you. It seems that the Queen Mum, Queen Sophia, is wanting to have her picture taken with her grandkids, the princesses Sophia and Leonor. But Queen Letizia doesn't want the photo taken, or is entirely oblivious and starts to fix her daughter's hair. What follows is an awkward move out the way lady moment, which seemingly has to be diffused by King Felipe as his father, King Juan Carlos, looks on bemused. Well, this all happened as they were leaving church on Easter Sunday and has the Spanish social media buzzing. Now, it is starting to become a thing after Thailand announced it would close its famous beach on Koh Phi Phi due to the damage done there by tourists. The Philippines are shutting down an entire island. It's called Boracay, and my producer has been there. There she is. She says it's beautiful in her top 5 beaches. Her holiday snaps are being shared free of charge. But President Duterte says he will close it for 6 months as it's become a cesspool. Those are his words. The government of the Philippines say they will focus on upgrading the sewer lines and restoring the drainage system. Now, the 35,000 people who work on the island will receive 2 billion Philippine pesos in calamity funds, as they will be out of their jobs for the length of time the work takes to complete. Well, Vince Sanchez is the Philippines Oceans campaigner for Greenpeace Southeast Asia. Vince, good to speak to you. So they're closing the island. Surely this has to be done in low season to make sure the island is habitable.
Yes, I think the decision of the government to close down Boracay, basically to rehabilitate Boracay Island is really important, timely, and has been a long-standing demand of different stakeholders for a long time because Boracay, reflects the very impact, the negative impact of unsustainable tourism and development in that area that actually affects a lot of sector.
You use the word unsustainable. I've never been to Boracay, as I said, my producer has. She said it's like a 30-minute boat ride from the mainland to the island. Why are they keeping all the garbage on the island? Why don't they just take it to the mainland and then dispose of it with the rest of the stuff?
That is basically the problem. Boracay represents what is currently happening now across the Philippines. In so many tourism destination, they did not implement solid waste management law, which we already have here in the Philippines, the Clean Water Act. So the problem in Boracay did not happen overnight. It has been there for a long time, and we have been calling the attention of the government, and we are happy that this has happened already.
Yeah, and I guess we're happy as well that the people who work seasonally will get some kind of compensation for their jobs being lost, but the hotels and that won't. Now, I want to ask you about energy from waste. So there are systems in the Philippines to burn this kind of waste to produce energy and make it somehow sustainable.
Well, our solid waste management law in the Philippines is very, very clear about how we reduce waste from the source. So it is the accountability of the businesses to make sure to identify, segregate the waste before they will put this in on a dump site. However, our Clean Air Act prohibits burning of waste. So the waste to energy is a violation of Clean Air Act, but you don't have to resort to burning waste, but you just need to address this from the source. So as you can see, the Philippines right now is third globally in terms of marine pollution coming from land-based marine pollution. So I hope there's going to be a clear, because they said it's 6 months. What we want to do now is they need to be transparent. What do they want to achieve in 6 months? Or else it's just going to be a recurring problem over and over again.
Okay, Vince from Greenpeace, thank you. All right, some more stories from around the world this Thursday. Now, he's so popular, but a conviction for fraud will mean that Lula da Silva could soon be sent to prison after the Brazilian Supreme Court denied his appeal. He was convicted for accepting a $1 million apartment as a bribe in a criminal scheme involving the state oil company Petrobras and many business leaders. This despite Lula being an avowed socialist. His policies lifted millions of Brazilians out of poverty, but his conviction means he cannot stand in elections due to be held in October. He denies all the charges against him. Most organisations, both public and private in the United Kingdom, pay women less than men. A new report found that, on average, women get 9.7% less per hour than a man for doing the same work. And 38 pilot whales have beached themselves off the west coast of New Zealand. 12 have been euthanised, apparently after consultation with a whale stranding expert. Now, he scored 38 goals this season and scored last night as Liverpool smashed Man City 3-0 in the Champions League. He's Mo Salah, and if you don't know, he's a European footballer and a boss. So much so that when the presidential elections were held in Egypt last week, he got thousands of votes. Take a look. Now, I don't know about you, but I often wake up wondering, why does sleeping make you so thirsty? It's not like you're running a marathon or anything. Well, this bear is getting back to reality after hibernation, and it's clearly parched as it takes to licking the snow around its den, as you can see. Just make sure that none of it is yellow. Well, that's all from the Newsfeed team. Do reach out to us with your questions, comments and complaints. You can find me at Kamali Melbourne. We're 24/7 on Twitter, YouTube and Facebook. Follow, subscribe and add, and I will see you again tomorrow.